Great. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So as some of us are new, I think last time some 2, 3 of you attended. So this will be a repetition for you quickly, but some new stuffs you'll find than previous DevOps sessions. But because this is a Kubernetes session, so obviously it is important that I cover the basics of containers. So that's why, for the benefit of everyone here, I need to cover this Kubernetes container basics. So that's the lesson one. And in this course, what will be today's agenda? I intend to, obviously we are late a bit. It is already half an hour past, but I'll try to take 15 minutes more possibly. But I intend to cover the basics of containers, pros and cons of VMs. That means why containers, and to actually cover some theories and why containers, what are the advantages, and how they are better than VMs, which way, or they are sometimes they are not better than VM in some ways. I'll also cover that. And we'll see some sample applications running on containers, and we'll see them in action. That is the because this course is going to be completely hands-on. So we'll not cover much theories. I expect everybody, each of you should have your laptop in front of you. That is a requirement for this course to complete. So next time, or maybe if not this time, I expect whoever joining, they should have a laptop or desktop in front of them so that I can guide exactly what to be done. Okay, so that it is not just theory. The difference between other e-learning courses will be like you just see videos, right? So this is going to be videos plus hands-on. So videos, obviously, I'll put all this whatever you are speaking on inside the course again, so that you can refer to this video again. But also, as we are speaking, so I expect each one of you to do some hands-on too. Though I know that you all of you are senior. You may not have that hands-on stuff with now, but I have seen the industry is the way it is going. Everybody expect you to be hands-on, even if you are an enterprise architect. So this will, you don't want to be expert or something, but at least if you know how to deploy a POC, maybe proof of concept in your company, that will be appreciated. So we'll go to a kind of POC level in this course, and so that you can deploy using your hand, using your own code, and so that you gain that confidence. Okay. So that will be my main intention. And also I'll give a hint how you can set up your home networking and home systems, so that going forward, we can run some real Kubernetes cluster inside your home or inside your home system. That's what I intend to cover. Okay. So quickly, let's see if I'm sure you all know what it is. Okay, sorry. Okay. I'm sure all of you know what is normal application stack. Uh, uh, okay, you all know this is the application stack in any environment, any traditional application running in a server, whether it is a desktop, server, laptop. This is the normal stack of servers, hardware, and software stack. So you see that enterprise network switch, and then it is connected to your physical server through the physical network port, and the storage, which is obviously all the data is stored, and then the processor, memory, operating system, then all the OS native applications, and then the Java runtime, .NET Core, whether it will support .NET applications, and Java needs Java runtime, and some libraries. So this is in a typical physical environment where no doubt there are, if it is a very big application, still they're running in some companies, some old traditional companies, still they're running some of their applications directly on the hardware, right? But many have moved to virtual machines or containers. So I'll not spend more time on this slide, but I expect that you all understand this. So in the next generation, maybe sometimes this journey started 10 years back, more than 10 years maybe, when virtualization came to picture into the market. Then they started, instead of running the applications directly on the hardware on the one operating system, they thought, okay, we can divide the whole operating system into divide the whole hardware into multiple virtual machines, right? So they introduced between the operating system and the hardware a hypervisor. So if you know that, again, I'll be fast with this basic because these are theory everywhere you can find it. So we introduced a hypervisor like ESXi server or type 1. These are type 1. Type 2 hypervisor is like VirtualBox or VMware Workstation. So we introduced a hypervisor between the operating system and the hardware, and then we divided that hardware into multiple virtual machines. And on each virtual machine, again, we installed operating system, right? So so each machine now, instead of one machine, they behave as multiple machines, and thus the number of VMs we can run is actually proportionate to the size of the server. That means if the server size is really big, we can definitely run a bigger number of bigger number of VMs. If it is smaller machine, we can run definitely less VMs, right? That depends upon the size of the machine. So we also understand this, and it is just a hypervisor running, that's all. So that is started this journey when VMware came with the virtualization. That is, I believe, in 2000, 2000, I think 5 they released, 2004 or 5. So, but the real virtualization journey started in 2006, 7 around, right? Okay, so we all know it. Now, let's see why then, why again there is something. So that's why I thought of putting this slide, the pros and cons of virtual machines. What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages with virtual machines? So if you know that, what are the benefits? All the OS resource available for the apps. That means one OS, one app, because they behave like individual machines, right? So the whole operating system resources are available to the application, right? So obviously there are like people didn't have to change a lot of management tools because they were already running it, right? In their establishment, they were running in the enterprise. So simple, because they are as if another physical machine, so they didn't have to change a lot of management software. And obviously the security tools, same thing. Better known security controls, because why? They are distinct physical, they are like distinct physical machines. Actually, they are not, but there is a distinct isolation between each VM because they don't share the operating system. They are different operating system, but they only share the hardware. So that's why it results in better security because their perimeter is defined. Then obviously the resource intensive task, if they need a particular application needs a lot of physical resource, then VMs are preferred than containers. We're not speaking about containers yet, of course, but if your machine or your application really consume a lot of processor power or lot of memory, lot of disks or storage, then it is preferred that you should run that application in a VM, right? But then what are the problem with VMs? Then if there are definitely good, there are something which others provide better, but let's see then what is the VMs tend to be bulky, obviously. Why? Because each VM has its own operating system, right? So in one hardware, we are creating multiple VMs. That means every VM has its own operating system. And because of obviously it is nature of the operating system, it becomes bulkier and bulkier. If one application is running in a VM, so it becomes really bulky, and sometimes when it is an advantage for some applications, it becomes disadvantage for some other applications, so it does not need so bulky maybe, right? Because unnecessarily maybe we are OS operating system itself consumes some resource, right? So when number of VMs, suppose one server we're running 100 VMs, that means 100 operating system we are running. That means each operating system process consumes some part of the hardware resource, right? That means the overhead of running each OS become more and more when the number of VMs become more. Suppose 1,000 VMs are there, and each consumes some extra resource, maybe 5G MB of RAM, suppose, then it huge set of RAM resource memory resources are going for waste, right? So that's the reason it becomes like sometimes for some applications it became bulky, and because it has its own operating system, own kernels, own binary, own libraries, and its own application, right? So that's again the second point. So that would just I said it is having its a lot of hardware resources consumed by the overhead operating system. Then, okay, another important factor is suppose a VM fails, then what happens? To restart it, it takes time because of its bulky nature and because it is the whole operating system has to be restarted. That means if the VM fails, it need to be restarted to be highly available, right? So it takes time because when your operating system boots, it takes its own sweet time. So because whole operating system has to be like put into the memory. So it is in the, it takes some seconds to restart, right? So in today's world, when the application need to be fast, quick restart of options, then sometimes VMs are not preferred because the restarting time is in some seconds. So we'll see how containers can overcome these problems. Okay. So um, before I come back to how containers can overcome, let's see what are the containers first. Okay. So if you see, there are two terms here: container and image. So what is a Docker container? I'll possibly everybody thinks they both are same, container and the container image. So if you know who are all AWS guys, there is a master image also, right? AMI, that is the VM image, right? You must be knowing AMIs. So similarly, those images, if you know AMI, they're not running. There's some static files which is packaged, whole VM is packaged and stored, right? But when they're running and you convert that into a instance in cloud, they becomes running instances. If you compare that, so image is similar, is a lightweight standalone executable package of softwares that is included everything into one single big package for running the application. It has got the code, it has got the runtime, it has got the system tools, libraries, and settings and configurations. Everything is packaged into one package so that without any support, without any dependency, it can run itself. That's called an image, but it is not running, it is a simple package. But whereas container is nothing but when an image is running inside a VM or inside an operating system, it becomes a container. So container can be stopped, like VM can be stopped, restarted, or deleted. Similarly, a container also can be stopped, started, restarted, or deleted. So this is the, if you just, I gave a mapping of VMs and containers, like VMs can be started, stopped, restarted, deleted, or right, in any cloud. Similarly, a container can be started, restarted, stopped and deleted too. An image is nothing but a simple creation of a package of software, your own code, executable code. Suppose if it is Java application, obviously the Java jar file. The runtime is nothing but the JVM. Then runtime, if your code needs some other libraries like other jar files which were imported in your code, also we need those libraries. Then of course we need some system tools like .so files in a Linux, shared object files, and of course some configuration files which is required for configurations, right? Those everything. So that means if I run the container, it should run without any support from anybody else. That's the difference very fundamentally, okay? But now how they look like in a real environment, in a real hardware, where they are located. So here, if you see the same thing as my previous diagram, we have the, let's take a cloud environment, let it be. Like if in a cloud or maybe in a home environment, you have a physical server. Again, same thing, it is connected to your home network or enterprise network. Then you have the storage hardware, then the hypervisor. Then there is a VM. This is the VM. VM has one operating system. Then what it does is we create another Docker layer that is set of libraries, and runtime is introduced between your application Docker container and the operating system. So that means Docker is nothing but a OS level of virtualization. Okay, so we are actually sharing the operating system. We are not sharing hardware. We are sharing the operating system resources. So it is the work of operating system and the Docker environment, Docker libraries and Docker runtime to allocate resources to your container to run. It is okay. So if it is a Java application, obviously Java container, obviously we need the Java app, JVM, binaries and libraries and so on and so forth. If it's a .NET, we need .NET to run all the .NET dependencies, libraries, binaries, and obviously the .NET core. So, and you see here, there is another like set. So going down, it is one layer. So we added hypervisor. Now we added Docker. It's just a layer to allocate resources to containers. Okay. Are we doing good? Any question?
So yeah, I have a question. So is it the Docker is sharing the operating system within the VMs, or?
So Docker is a runtime which is responsible for allocating resources to the container, but it is the OS resources, obviously it is sharing. But it is a set of libraries, it is a process which is responsible for creating an environment called Docker environment, which is nothing but it has got a scheduler, it has got libraries, it has got some processes which to enable the containers to run and also to share, and it has got a networking component also, because if you go back here, I'll cover those details a bit later.
Okay.
Once we see in action something, because I don't want to jump into some boring networking here. Because once you understand how it runs in practical, then I'll actually introduce networking, how they are networked, how a networking company inside the Docker between, so that the traffic can flow from one container to another from inside the Docker itself. Okay, so but okay, overall it is just sharing the operating system resources. Okay, yeah, this is what it is. Containers share the OS resources. Okay. So you see here, Docker uses the system tools for abstraction of the process and kernel. So you see the kernel is basically the same, okay, because the OS kernel. So it is not different. It is the same OS kernel, and the container does not. It only does. Each container has its own user space. That means they have separate user space, but in the kernel they it is share the kernel resources. If you are operating system expert, maybe you will understand what is user space and what is kernel space. In particular Linux environment, user space is each user where the user applications run, whereas kernel has its own space also, context. Okay, so here each container does contain a separate OS in every way beyond the kernel. That means it will behave as if it is a separate operating system to the application, which is running inside the container. Inside the container, the application will see every resource of a separate OS. But when it comes to the kernel layer or kernel context, it will see that the above containers are nothing but applications. Okay, because they share they share the kernel and they have their own user space. Okay, so that is what is the difference. So VM versus containers. So this is like hardware level virtualization VMs, and this is OS level virtualizations. If you see, VMs are heavy, containers are lighter. Heavy light means like in terms of resource utilization. So VMs consume a lot of resources, system resources, whereas containers, they consume little resource. That's why they are faster also. Each VM run its own operating system, and all containers share the same host operating system. Startup time in minutes, whereas here startup time is in milliseconds. Fully isolated and hence more secure. Traditionally, VMs are more secured than containers. Why? Because they are completely isolated, because they have their own operating system. So operating system is not shared. But whereas containers, because they share the operating system, sometimes you have to take care of the security yourself. That means applying a lot of other tools are there to support containers so that there is security is controlled. Otherwise, if you don't do anything, it may be less secure, so that you cannot run all the very security specific applications, so that because each container can talk to each other. Okay, because they share the operating system. We'll see that in action when we will come to more details, how Kubernetes also helps in securing containers. Okay. Advantages of containers over VM. As you might have already got it, less overhead, because obviously we are not running a separate operating system for every container, right? So traditional hardware or virtual machines, they have their own operating system to run, whereas they share the same OS. Quicker, obviously, because they're light. This does not, they don't have a lot of resources to consume. That's why to restart, it takes hardly some milliseconds, as we just saw. We'll see that in action. And portability is one of the main reasons of adoption of Kubernetes containers is its portability. That means once packaged to a container, you can take it anywhere and just start it. And they're easy to carry, obviously, and easy to, because they're small in size. So you can take and you can transport, you can put into a central repository like Docker Hub. You can have your private Docker Hub and you save it there, and you can download anywhere to run it. And it will run once created. You cannot change it. That means it is immutable. Actually, Docker containers are immutable. When I said immutable, means they cannot be converted once packaged. Only another layer can be added to them, but a container cannot be modified. This is an important property of containers or the image. Once one image is created, it cannot be modified. Okay, but well, if you want to modify, then what you have to do is you have to create another layer on it. That's what I mean to say. Obviously, then the result is another container or another image, which is having the old image plus some added layer on that. So You didn't change the original image, but you created another image, taking the original old image, let it be 1.1 image is there, and you want to modify it, but you cannot. So what you do is take the 1.1, add another layer to it, make it another container image, and name it 1.2. So it both became distinct images, separate images, but the original 1.1 didn't change. That's what I mean by the atomicity. Like it becomes like, so it is pure, it cannot be modified. So sometimes that is an advantage also. Okay. So
Basically, every time, okay, you have to deploy a new image, right?
yeah, so
Okay.
if you once it is created and produced by the development team, you cannot modify it. Okay. So next version would be a new image with a new layer on it, possibly. It can be reutilized, but another layer has to be added, or maybe a new container has to be created. Okay. So that's the reason it's consistent. Sometimes operation consistent. That means once a package, it will run wherever it goes, it will run the same way because it has its own configuration already. The configuration cannot be changed. Okay. So that means a development environment, testing environment, and production environment all are same. Previous generation, when we used to be there, we all maybe, development environment, when it goes, you develop something in your own environment, when it goes to production environment at the client side, because of its client's configuration, it is not running, or maybe some bug or something. But here, it is not like that. Then what happens? You testing team, you say that, okay, can you exactly create my environment so that you can reproduce the problem, right? It's a normal scenario, right? Read production of the bug. You guide the testing team that, okay, how to create the bug, how to reproduce it. You have to have the same configuration as me, right? But here it's not like that. Once it is configured and packaged, everywhere it goes, because it has its own configuration. You don't have to guide anybody. Simple, run it. It is exactly the same. Greater efficiency because obviously it is rapidly deployed because it's fast. Security, Docker containers as because advantage I said, it has obviously disadvantages because it shares the operating system, but it is secure one way because it is immutable. Because once it's created, nobody can attack it with their own code. Maybe you cannot just inject code into it because it is immutable. Okay. Better application development because obviously I said agile methodology and containers go hand in hand because once it is created, it can be because of lighting in light nature. It can be just tested faster, created faster, and deployed faster. So it supports agile methodology. Okay, now this theory, enough theory. What is the time? Time check. Okay. We have 3 minutes more, but I'm trying to cover some more things here. Maybe some more time will take. Okay. So let me go back. Installing Docker, preparing. So I